Good morning, BookTube. This is Johnny. This is today is it is March the 15th, 2025. Is 8:38 in the morning here in Southwest Michigan. I am trying to film inside my study here, not down the lower level, because I said I was going to show you my new small bookcase here in my study. There are 3 of these bookcases in this study, and I got this one a couple weeks ago because I was accumulating some new books. I told you I went out and bought a bunch of books because I was expecting the collapse of the American Empire, and I thought, well, as Rome was going to burn to the ground, I might as well sit in my hermit hut in the American wasteland and just read. I was telling my wife this morning, well, if we have enough money to pay our taxes and enough money to buy some, food, and the infrastructure of America doesn't collapse, we could survive. They can't evict us from our house if we pay our taxes. Now, we own this house, and but even if you own a house, you got to keep paying taxes on it to the city. And so I went out and bought a bunch of books because I thought, well, these are some books I wanted for a while, and I thought, well, I might as well just buy them. So I have 3 bookcases. One's over there, you can see it. This one over here I bought last year, and then there's one over there by the window. You can see over there, there's a window, there's a bookcase, and there's bookcases there. And but this is the newest bookcase right here. This one I just bought. They go for about, I think, $72 it was. They're kind of expensive. I could have bought one at a thrift store. I've bought bookcases at thrift stores over the years, but I like these little ones because they fit. They're about 21 inches, 27 inches, and they fit in this little area. So I thought I'd just show you what I put in here. That's what I'm going to do. First of all, I should show you, I did go to Blue Stocking yesterday, bookshop. I have in-store credit, and I bought basically what I read on Friday Reads was this book, Charles Bronski Reader, Run with the Hunted, a Charles Bronski Reader, edited by John Martin. This is what I basically read yesterday. I got it in the mornings. I left the house around 10 o'clock in the morning, and I went north side of Holland, and I bought this. I also bought I bought this. I haven't read it yet. I haven't started getting it. I bought this yesterday, Like Love, Essays and Conversations with Maggie Nelson. Yeah, I really like Maggie Nelson's writings. I have her The Art of Cruelty by Maggie Nelson. And then I have Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. And the last thing I read of hers was Women in the New York School and Other True Abstractions by Maggie Nelson. She is also known as a poet, kind of experimental writer, but I always like her writings. So I got those. Well, I got this one yesterday, Like Love, Essays and Conversation by Maggie Nelson. And as you know, I've shown you over the years, I've been reading Bronski since the 1960s. So I got a book in the mail. Well, not in the mail. I ordered this book from Amazon, and it was delivered yesterday evening. The Folly of Realism, how the West deceived itself about Russia and betrayed Ukraine by Alexander Vickerman. I haven't really gotten into this yet. I watched him on YouTube and really was impressed by him. He is Dr. Alexander Vickerman, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army, retired, was the Director of European Affairs on the White House National Security Council, former Pentagon military affairs officer for Russia, attaché at the American Embassy in Moscow and Kiev. He holds a Doctorate in International Affairs from the School of Advanced International Studies at Johns Hopkins, where he is a senior fellow. So I got that. Yeah, as you all know, I'm into Eastern Europe, even before the Ukrainian war, even before Russia invaded Ukraine. I've always been fascinated with Eastern Europe, Europe. So, but here's the bookcase. So what did I put in here? Well, I showed you the Dionysian and the Carthusian, so I put all 4 volumes of those here. And then I've shown you, these are all new books. I showed you the Meditations on the Life and Passion of Christ. I've showed you that. And then I've showed you most of these books. I'm just going to give you a sample what's on the bookcase. I'm not going to show you all of them because it's going on 7 minutes already. Trinity and the Canon, a Biblical, Theological, Historical, Practical Proposal, editor Brandon D. Smith. Things like this that I put in there on this book, top shelf. I showed you this book on classical Trinitarianism, Retrieving the Nicene Doctrine of the Triune God, forward by J. Todd Billings, Matthew Barrett, editor. These are kind of things I put in here. Reformation Commentary, Scripture, Volume 1 on Isaiah 1 through 39, edited by Jeff Fisher. They haven't come out with Volume 2, or XB. And then on the lower shelf, I showed you these. These are all back, I showed you these, the ancient Christian texts, Ambrosier, Galatians and Philemon. I showed you these books. Another sample, I showed you this, Brian E. Daly, Biblical Interpretation and Doctrine in Early Christianity. These are collected essays. I also have his book, The Hope of the Early Church, Handbook for Patristic Eschatology by Brian E. Daly. These are, so, yeah, if I have a certain books by a certain writer or scholar, I put them together. Also, Brian E. Daly translated Light on the Mountain, Greek Patristic and Byzantine Homilies on the Transfiguration of the Lord. This is a great little book. I'm just going to give you a sample. What's on the shelf? I put this 2-volume biography on St. Thomas Aquinas, Spiritual Master, Volume 1, The Person and His Work, translated, this is by Jean Pierre Tournelle. This is Volume 1, The Person and His Work, translated by Robert Royal. This is Volume 2, a Thomas Aquinas biography, Spiritual Master, Jean Pierre Tournelle. Yeah, I read these, I think last year or the year before. I showed them in the past. And then I showed you this book recently, Medieval Civilization, 400 to 1500 by Jacques Legraf. And I've showed you this in the past, Sermons on Genesis chapters 11 through 20 by John Calvin. This was 48 sermons delivered in Geneva between January 24th, 1560 and May 5th, 1560, translated into English by Rob Royal McGregory. Sermons on Genesis by John Calvin. I also have John Calvin in the Power of the Spirit, Sermons Matthew, Mark, and Luke, translated from the French by Robert White. And then on the bottom shelf, I showed you last year I started collecting these. They're kind of like journal diaries of Randy Rourke, and he was at Naropa, Jack Kerouac's School of Disembodied Spirits back in the 70s, and he kept journals and diaries when he took classes with Allen Ginsberg and the Beats, and that's why I got all 4 volumes of those. I showed you these. Poet's Apprentice, at the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics, and then he came out with another volume. At the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics, Randy Rourke, Poet's Apprentice, Book 2, and then he came out with Book 3, and then Book 4, and then 5. Some of these are just his diaries that he wrote even after he was out of that school. But I really like diaries, as you all know, because I'm a diary writer. So I got those in the bottom shelf. I showed you this book, Evergreen Review, The Reader, 1957 to 1966. Yeah, these it has writings by Terry Southern, different people, Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, people like that. This poster up here is Jack Kerouac. And then I have novels on the bottom shelf. I haven't started reading this novel. It's called Celestial Harmonies by Peter Esterhazy, a novel. I think it's translated out of, I think the translation by Julius Sosky. This was, I think, out of Hungarian, I think. But I haven't read this. I picked it up a couple years ago. And I showed you I just bought this book, 100 Years of Socialism, The West, European Left in the 20th Century by Donald Sasson. I bought American Colossus, The Triumph of Capitalism, 1865 to 1900 by H.W. Brands. You know, these are all, that's why I got these new books, and I wanted to have them visible so I would read them. And I collect the historian, the books by H.W. Brands. I have a whole shelf of his books. I think he wrote a lot of books. And I really like his, I'm into, like he wrote The First American, The Age of Gold, Lone Star Nation, Andrew Jackson. I think I showed you all these. Heirs of the Founders, Dreams of El Dorado, Our First Civil War, The Founding Parisians. So I found this. I showed you this book, The Cold War, A History by Martin Walker. Yeah, I collect books on the Cold War, and I read on the footnote this is one of the best, so I bought it. And I have been reading Eric Hobsbawm, The Age of Extremes, 1914 to 1991. I showed you this. These are all books I just recently got. I started reading this last year, the Romantic Moderns, English Writers, Artists, and Imagination, from Virginia Woolf to John Piper, by Alexander Harris. So, yeah. I also started reading this book last year, but I really was getting into this, and then I need to get back into it. Maria Theresa, The Habsburg Empress in Her Times, by Barbara Stolberg Reilinger, translated by Robert Savage. Yeah, I was really getting into this, and I was really enjoying it, and then I got sidetracked. It's over. It's around over 1,000 pages, but I was really enjoying it. I need to get back into it. That's why I keep it up here in my main study. And I was reading this last year, History and Revolution, Refuting Revisionism, edited by Michael Hayes and Jim Wolfries. These are essays. I bought this, and I wanted to read on the French Revolution. It's in here. This is by Verso Press. And then A.N. Wilson, I just showed you this, Confessions, A Life of a Failed Promises. This is a memoir by A.N. Wilson. I collect his writings. He's written all kinds of books, and I got this from Hamilton Books. It was really cheap. I like reading memoirs, as you all know. And then I bought The World According to John Dion by Evelyn McDowell. I can't, but McDowell. So, and then I bought this novel by Alfred Dobrin, Mountains, Oceans, and Giants, a novel of the 27th century, and this is translated by C.D. Godwin. Yeah, I wanted to read this. I got it just beginning of this year, 2025. And Frances Porridge, a biography by Anne Christian, which is part of the Bloomsbury group with Virginia Woolf and that whole literary movement. So I got this used. So yeah, those are the kind of books that are in this bookcase. And Yeah, these are kind of, I didn't show you this book. The Medieval Scriptorium, Making Books in the Middle Ages by Sarah J. Charles. Here's a book on Roman Catholic theology, The Science of Sacred Theology, complete in one volume by Emmanuel Dorzy, OMI, introduction by Matthew in something. Then you have, I was reading this, I showed you this, William Mystics in Medieval Europe by Emila Zumbruum, Gioretta, I can't pronounce their names, but I showed you this book already. I showed you these, Bernard McQuinn. This is volume 5, The Presence of God, A History of Western Christian Mysticism, Varieties of Vernacular Mysticism. And then this is part 1 of volume 6, A Mysticism in the Reformation, 1500 to 1650, part 1 by Bernard McQuinn. I'm supposed to get part 2, volume 6 today in the mail. No, not in the mail. Amazon's going to deliver it. I want to get all of them. I have I have 2 more volumes to get in this series, The Presence of God, volume 6, A History of Western Christian Mysticism. I want to buy all of them. I told you the last volume, volume 7 of this Presence of God series by Bernard McQuinn is impossible to get. You can't get it. It's not available. So then I have Theological Germanica of Martin Luther in the Classics of Western Spirituality series. And I have Johannes Thaler in the Classics of Western Spirituality, his sermons. So yeah, that's what's in this bookcase here. I had a video a couple of years ago, last year or year before, of that bookcase over there and the bookcase over there by the window. I've shown those. So yeah. So now now it's 9 o'clock. Yeah, today is a Saturday. My wife left this morning to go to a women's conference in Hudsonville for the day. She'll be back in the afternoons. I'm not sure what I'm going to be reading. As you know, I've been trying to finish reading volume 4 of Dionysius Carthusian on the Psalms, so I can start reading the one that just got last week. Volume 5, Psalms 101 to 125, a commentary by Dionysius the Carthusian, translated introduction by Andrew M. Greenwell. Yeah, I'll probably start reading these today. Well, I only got one psalm left in volume 4, and then I'm going to start reading volume 5. So that's the bookcase. This is my study. As you all know, you've seen this over the years. You've seen the bookcases. I'll turn off the light because it's getting kind of... But you've seen these. You've seen the bookcase over there. Oh, I should show you. I did go to the seed store in Zeeland, which is north of us, and I did get sunflowers. I did get flowers from my wildflower garden. Yeah, last year I grew some Mexican sunflower. I really enjoyed those. So I got 2 packages of those. And then I got a package of wildflower seeds from my wildflower garden. And I got those. And then I got some sunflower. So yeah, last year I went to get wildflower seeds late and they were all sold out everywhere. I couldn't find any. So this year I really got there early. I also picked up at Blue Stockings yesterday was a biography on Somerset Maugham. I just recently found this one at a thrift store. And it's by Selena Hastings, The Secret Lives of Somerset Maugham. And I found this at a thrift store recently, Irons in the Fire. These are essays by John McCree. I've been reading these essays at night. I told you I finished reading The Incarnations by Susan Barker. I finished that. Start reading San Camino 1936 by Camino Jose Celi, translated by John R.H.R. Pott. So yeah, I got this last night. We'll look at it today in my nonfiction in the afternoons. Mainly read Bronsky yesterday. So yeah, these are all CDs. These are the other bookcase. This is the other bookcase. If I can get out of the way. There's the other bookcase. Third bookcase. Books. And so yeah, that's the bookcases. There's Jack Kerouac. There's Hal, City Lights Books. Bob Dylan. This is my Bob Dylan collection CDs. So I'll sign off. Do pray you're all doing well. Yeah, this is my study. This is where I hang out as Rome burns. So I hope you're having a good reading weekend. Thank you for the comments. Do pray you're all doing well. It is going on 9:05 in the morning. And I'll sign off. May the Lord bless. Until next time. Bye.